So why is neoliberal system of rules so stable? Why is there so little opposition? So if there's no opposition, that means that it's stable vis-a-vis alternatives. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it is stable in itself, for example. So there is opposition, but probably it's little. So that opposition which is little, what are its chances of going in, all those things. And obviously within capitalist system, opposition. So when we talk about opposition to capitalism or neoliberal capitalism, so we can divide into opposition in the core of capitalism, advanced capitalist societies. And within that core, we can also talk about core and then periphery. But let's not go into on that dimension for now. Then you have opposition within countries or regions which are not core but are closely associated with the core in terms of reaping its benefit or providing its cushion, for example. And then periphery, so opposition and periphery. So these are at least three types of opposition. So which type of opposition we are talking about? So probably what he's talking about is in the opposition within the core of capitalism, within the core of capitalism. And obviously here we can also make another, but probably stability at the level of government. So he's not talking about the stability of the level of stable system versus stable government. So government can be stable. So instability of government doesn't necessarily imply instability of the system. But if there's too frequent, then it might refer back to something fundamentally wrong within the system or instability of the system. And obviously, system can be unstable, not very strong. We need to define stability in the first place, but might not be prone to any revolutionary changes because of the lack of opposition or lack of a strong opposition or lack of alternative, or many other things. So why all opposition swiftly go nowhere? Probably it's talking about opposition to opposition like Occupy Wall Street or environmental opposition. One thing which we can note about these oppositions is that the concept of revolution has been in a sense made unworthy of attention within core capitalist countries through various means. We can say that at least since the start of the neoliberal period, if not from before, and there are various reasons for it. One of the reasons is that abundance create what Marcuse calls one-dimensional man. Co-optation of labor unions, for example. And nationalism has been an important aspect as well. And we can't say whether it's just cause or effect, but the fact that legitimate violence has become discredited. So these things mean that opposition is not a revolutionary opposition to start with. The opposition he's talking about, the opposition which starts but goes nowhere. Because these are single issue movements. They are not oppositions which are aiming at overthrowing the system and establishing a new system. And since the collapse of Soviet Union, that has become totally obsolete within the core capitalist countries, even from before. So to saying that they are not going anywhere is a bit misleading because it implies that they were going anywhere. Oppositions are normally, I mean, there's a single issue oppositions are sometimes successful, sometimes not. But since they are not the feminist movement or labor unions, etc., environmental movements, the anti-capitalist movements, so-called, they're all single issue movements. They don't aim to, or at least in practice, they don't aim to overthrow the current ruling system, capitalist system. They might, some of them might want to change the neoliberal system, but that assumes that neoliberal system can be changed without changing capitalism as a whole at this point. I mean, the collapse of neoliberal system wouldn't mean the collapse of capitalism, but it would mean the collapse of the most advanced form of capitalism to date. And so it's possible that neoliberalism self-destructs itself and it goes back to some previous form of capitalism, like social democracy or fascist capitalism or Nazi capitalism or nationalistic capitalism, etc., which it does in times of crisis if it cannot deal with the crisis. So the question, why does all opposition so swiftly go nowhere? Assume that there was some systematic opposition to start with. So that's a bit of dissonance between my objection to the why is there so little opposition to all opposition. So there might be opposition, but that opposition is not a systematic opposition. And then it's why is revolution no longer possible despite, obviously that's assuming